Hey guys, Glockster42, scale model Alberta. And now for something completely different. Alright, I've been building lots of armor lately, and I was a little bit of burnout from Sherman tanks, 3 Sherman tanks and a few other things in the last couple months, so I thought, you know what, need to build something different. I was going through my stash. I want to start cleaning up all my half-assed, half-built kits, and this one jumped right out at me. I started this one probably back in 2007. I built the landing gear, built the cockpit, and glued the wings together, and I just kind of lost interest and put it away. So I thought, what the hell, I'll break this one out and get at it. So I did, and it turned out to be a really nice kit. This is a really nice Tamiya aircraft. It's well engineered, it's nicely detailed. Tamiya kind of dropped the ball on a few things, but a few other things they did really nice. Like, they give you a great big chunk of metal up front for a nose weight. Otherwise, this would definitely be a tail sitter. So they give you that. It's nicely engineered. It fits together good. They kind of dropped the ball on the cockpit, on the dash itself. There's very little detail. The decal they give you is pretty bad. So that's kind of basic. The seat's kind of basic, but the undercarriage is nice. The landing gear is good. The wheel wells are nice, and the recessed panel lines are nice and fine, well detailed. So like that, you know, it's a nicely built kit. And I did in the late war splinter scheme of violet brown and medium green. I think it's called a underside of is 65, the light blue, and then it's an 80-81 color scheme. And the paint I used was Tester's Model Master acrylic. Now, if you use the brown violet, which is turns out which is a good match. It's a great match for the brown violet used on this. But their number 81 is too dark. It's too olive green. You need to use their number 83, which is a lighter green, which matches up really nice. And I masked it off with Tamiya masking tape and all that kind of good stuff. I had a lot of trouble with the paint. I had a lot of trouble with the paint. The first coat, I did the brown violet, did it all out, turned out fairly nice. Masked it all off and sprayed the light green on and let it cure off. And a couple days later, I come back to it, and for whatever reason, whether I didn't thin it out enough, or was, you know, I was holding the brush a little too far away, it was about like 80 grit sandpaper over the entire, all the light green and some of the brown violet was quite literally like 80 grit sandpaper. We had some really bad edges on the lines there, so I ended up sanding it all out, buffing it all out, cleaning it up. Some of the paint peeled off. This whole chunk right from here peeled off, so I had to skin that all off and redo it. I didn't bother throwing a undercoat on. I probably should have, but I just wanted to get at it. I wanted to get it done. So I ended up letting it cure another 3 days, wet sanding it all with a 3600 pad. Got it all cleaned up. It looked really nice. Went to shoot the gloss coat on, put the final coat of gloss on, and nice wet gloss coat on, a Future, looking really good. And my darling old wife came down into my painting area and pulled the filter out of the dryer and shook it out, and the entire area was just inundated with a billion particles of lint, and most of them landed all along the wings, all along the sides. So I had to strip all the Future down, redo all the Future, shot my second series of Future on, and for whatever reason the Future dried like sandpaper. It was like a 60 grit. It was just horrible. Like, oh. So I stripped all that Future down. So I ended up sanding off that one and adding another coat, couple of coats of Future, and that was a mess. Stripped it off, and I ended up brushing on my Future with a wide flat brush. Thanks to Nigel on that call, I asked him how he does his Future, and he puts it on with a wide flat brush, and I did. It got a little bit of some brush lines on it, but by the time I got the flat on it, looked alright. So I thought I was going to try and do this as the, I think there's one in the Smithsonian that's been a complete restoration. I was kind of going to go for that. But after all the troubles I had with paint, I said to hell with it, I'm going to give it a good hard heavy weathering. So what I've done was, first of all, after I got the decals on and the gloss coat done, we gave it a really good heavy pin wash. We got all the seams with a heavy coat. I believe I used MIG on this one, so I got all the panel lines heavily weathered. Lots of color into the panel lines. Got them all done up, and we sealed that with another coat of flat. And then we went ahead and I got the airbrush out, and as you can see, I added some extra post shading along some of the heavier lines around the engines, around the exhaust. Added all the exhaust, added some more streaking and muck and grease effects on the ailerons and all that, and the back rudders and all that kind of good stuff. And then of course the underneath was done the same way. I went ahead and shot some, used some, this is actually Vallejo primer on here, thinned out about 70-30. Shot along on here to bring all these out, give them some extra depth, and I also did that around on the landing gear and all that, especially underneath here where the engine maintenance and all that kind of good stuff would be. And after I did all that, it was really harsh, really sharp. So I shot another coat of matte varnish on. I was using Vallejo matte, and then I went ahead and used a bright green filter from the MIG range. Gave it a couple shots of filtering, and I brought some, got some winter grime, and I brought it back, everything back forward from the lines, from the wing root fronts of the wings back, to give it some real heavy streaks and to give it a fairly faded, well wore look without tons of chipping and without a lot of paint damage, because the paint that they used when it was painted up at the factory, was my understanding, was a very high quality paint that was not prone to chipping and fading. And a lot of the German stuff late war was a little more towards the gloss. Gloss paint, of course, is a little bit more aerodynamic on airplanes, so they went with that. I did add a whole bunch of microchips with an artist's pencil along the root here and along the back, and just a tiny little bit of metal chips using a silver pencil along the engine hatches and all that along here where there'd be some walking on. I kept the chips and the paint fatigue to a minimum. There was still still is a lot of debate whether this plane actually saw combat, or it was just strictly in the testing phase or not. So I kind of like, well, okay, let's put it as a very heavily used test plane. So you can see I've got a lot of streaking from grease and muck coming off the ailerons and all that in the back, and the light green fading really added a lot of depth to this color. So anyway, hey, there you have it, guys. The Dornier Do335 from Tamiya in 48 scale. It's an exceptionally nice kit, and like I said at the start, this is a very big model. This is a big airplane. I don't have any 48 scale figures. The figure that came with this was just a lump of plastic. It was horrible, but here's the 35th scale figure, so you can just see how darn big this thing is in 48. It's a huge model. Like I said, it's damn near as big as my 32 scale Japanese franc. So there you have it, guys. Something a little bit different for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll post just a few pictures after I'm done here for a little slideshow, so I can get a little closer and show you some of the detail on the weathering. All right, guys. Later. Take care. Hope everyone's had a great Remembrance Day and Veterans Day, and that you've taken a few minutes to remember those brave boys that fought and died for us in the First, Second World War, Korea, and all the other stuff that's been going on since then. All right, guys. Later. This is Glockster42. Take care.